reinforce Kelly Field has sort of started this ball rolling. But he says, I know exactly where I need you. And he sends Barnes' brigade up into Kelly Field and to come in here. He's going to send them right into this position. Barnes.
Yeah, Barnes says, I was soon ordered by General Wood to quit my position and move at the double quick by the left flank, and passing General Brannan to report to General Reynolds for action. This order I complied with as far as I could. I double quicked my command a mile or more, nowhere near that, half mile probably at most. Sent aide to camps in every direction in quest of General Reynolds, but could find neither him nor his command. Being ordered by General Wood to halt near the foot of a hill and to throw up a barricade, we did so. That's the pause near the intersection of Glen Kelly and Snodgrass Hill Road. We were then ordered to report to General Baird for action. I accordingly ordered my command forward through a dense wood and galloped forward with a guide, an officer of General Baird's command, to be shown my position. Finding it on the left and at the edge of a large cornfield, I returned to my command, threw a shower of balls, and conducted them to a position behind a barricade. Just before completing this order, the enemy drove back a body of troops, apparently a brigade, in this order through the open field on my left. I was then ordered to change front, charge the enemy, and drive them back.
Where's he at on this map?
He's not on this map. He comes up a little bit later.
Yeah.
And the Confederate attack that he's talking about is Govan's brigade when they get briefly into the north end of Kelly Field. After the repulse of Stovall and Adams, Govan will do nearly the same thing and get to the north end of Kelly Field, only to experience the same thing that Stovall and Adams did, which was a sudden descent of a horde of bluecoats. We'll have a horde of bluecoats this time. What's your white cell analogy?
White blood cells rushing to the scene of the infection.
Yeah. Govan experiences the same thing. Not quite as many white blood cells this time, but still quite a few Federal units are vectored towards him. They stop him and throw him back. And that is the moment that Barnes is arriving up here. So.
And Barnes' two lead regiments, the 8th Kentucky and 51st Ohio, move somewhere into this part of the field, and from their descriptions of their reports, charge that way and are instrumental in driving off Govan. The other two regiments, the 99th Ohio and can't remember, 35th Indiana, shouldn't forget that one, Darrell.
They're Irish.
35th Irish. Well, as Darrell,
Mostly Irish.
Yeah,
mostly.
Darrell has developed a sudden interest in them because there's some Ohio Germans in the ranks. So the two support regiments stop in the field, throw up another line of barricades. These men must be getting good at barricade building. And then the 51st Ohio and 8th Kentucky take up a position on the line. And this is really where it's confusing. Did they take up position on this side of Dodge, or did they take up the position that's now marked for them between Dodge and King?
Their monuments and commemorative features are over here.
And we will certainly go down and look at those. But they don't get mentioned much at all. Here's J.P. Dufessy of the 35th Indiana. As soon as this noble piece of work had been accomplished, we formed in line of battle in rear of some works which had been erected by General Johnson's forces. Is that Dodge? General Johnson. Dodge belongs to Johnson. Or are they further back in the field and are behind the line of Johnson's division and perhaps perpendicular to it.
Are they where Dodge had been earlier?
And immediately on the left of the second line of his division. I believe that it's further down there, but it could be. He could be referring to these troops up here.
It could even be that whatever line of works Dodge may have built back there when he was briefly back in that position. By the end of the battle, there are so many lines of works up here in this area, this greater area of King's Brigade, that the Confederates call this the Union Log Fort when they occupy it, because there are lines of works at right angles to one another, and they envisioned it almost as if an enclosed log fort. So when Dodge was temporarily back there, his men well have thrown up another line of works, and that could be where the 35th Indiana is.
Colonel Woods, 51st Ohio, one of the regiments that conducted the charge. After completely routing the enemy on the left, we took position on the left of General Starkweather's brigade. Again,
they're way down there.
And no firing occurred until 5 p.m. Peter Swain of the 99th Ohio simply says, our last position being with General Baird's division. So you see that we simply don't have enough information to definitively pinpoint any of these regiments in the fighting that occurs up here.
Except that the Park Commission put Dodge's markers here, Barnes is there, and that theoretically is done in the presence or with the presence of veterans of those units.
So what we then assume is that there is oral history sufficient to pinpoint those locations when all these old guys are tromping around out here going, I was right here. Of course, as we know, that isn't always 100%, but there is some reason why those tablets are there, and ultimately there's some reason why ultimately why I put them in my map book and why we discuss them, or why they're on the Betts maps, for instance, the troop movement maps. But at various times of the day, both I guess the final thing that strikes me is that we really have multiple lines. We don't have just these three regiments and then Woods regiments, 2 up, 2 back. We have a reserve line of 2 of Woods regiments that are at least that far back in the field. If they're talking about the Starkweather's brigade, they're I don't know, 200 yards from.
Or more.
Yeah.
Or 300.
So, and actually, at the end of the day, when we finally have to get all these troops out of here at 5 o'clock on September 20th, getting them out of here will be equally complicated.
So I hate to say it, but is it possible that between, after all that September 1863, then we get to, when did they start 1890? How much of this landscape had changed?
There is a dispute amongst the veterans about exactly where the bend or angle in the line is over here, where the regular brigade is. And some of them want to put it a little bit further to the north. So yes, it is possible that they could have gotten it wrong. But there are plenty of other instances here where somebody says this happened here, and somebody says no, it happened over here, and they argue about it, and they work out some understanding, or they go to court over it. So you know, in studying all of this, we've got the reports, we've got letters and diaries, but we also have the monuments, markers, tablets, and plaques themselves, and what they say, and we've got to reconcile all of that. And sometimes you just can't get all the pieces of the puzzle work together.
There are some pieces that are still missing.
Was it 9 guns or was it 11?
I tell a lot of people that that this is a 10 billion piece puzzle. The only thing is the box containing the 10 billion pieces is broken. And we don't have all of the pieces of the puzzle anymore. But if we put the pieces that we do have together, do we at least get some general sense of what the picture is? So we may not know every little detail of it. So I should probably buy one of those really big, 2,500 piece puzzles or several of
Dump it
them.
out. Okay.
Yeah, and
Throw them on the ground.
Yeah,
throw
dump it
them
out on the
yeah,
ground.
and break them. Get several of the same one and then put them together, with having lost half the pieces, a quarter of the pieces.
By the way, there are only 2 colors.
Yes.
No pictures.
Yeah, the box is completely
Yeah,
plain.
no picture of the
No
assembly.
picture on the box.
Yeah.
What's, you think about some of these brigades, they were in so many different positions over the course of 2 days.
Yeah.
30 years later, I can't remember where I was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but this is pretty significant.
I think.
They're changing. You're down there. They're up here. So it's no wonder maybe they got a little mixed up 30 years later where they actually were.
I think there's one argument that's important. The Confederates owned this battlefield for a couple of months, and they came down and played tourist. Jefferson Davis is supposedly taken on a tour around.
One of their engineers does the first relatively detailed map of the battlefield.
The burial details from the various regiments locate their dead and bury them and identify where they fought. So many of the men who fought here had an opportunity in the ensuing weeks to at least come back down here and see where they fought. And that possibly helped cement those locations in their minds. And then after November 25, Missionary Ridge, the Confederates are driven off it, and the Federals suddenly reoccupy this land, and now it's their turn. And they both play tourist. Grant and Thomas take an excursion to this battlefield.
Yeah, George Thomas brings Grant out here in December and gives him a tour of the battlefield. Brings 1,000 soldiers as escort, and a section of artillery. And Thomas brings his new boss out here and gives him a tour of the battlefield.
Grant and Thomas and an unknown number of staff officers cut wood from the battlefield and to be made into walking sticks, staffs that are being sold at sanitary fairs in Chicago and a city in Ohio.
Cincinnati, I think.
Cincinnati. Boy, wouldn't you like to get a hold of one of those?
Yeah, the Confederates, by the time Davis is given his tour here on October the 12th, the Confederates have painted up signs to mark important points on the battlefield and hung them in trees. Left of Polk's brigade, right of Polk's brigade.
And the Federals do come down here. They're recovering their dead. I'm sure many of you have been with us when Jim has talked about the 78th Illinois on Horseshoe Ridge. That's a very dramatic and a graphic account of the recovery process. But that was repeated many, many times as different regiments came down here to look for their casualties.
And after very early 1864, the Chickamauga battlefield is within the Union picket line. At some point, I don't know exactly when, it's either very late 63 or very early 64, the Union picket line gets extended to the line of West Chickamauga Creek. and they begin rotating brigades into to a camp at Lee and Gordon's Mill, and those troops then man this picket line along West Chickamauga Creek. And so this is within Union control after early 1864. And so soldiers get permission to leave their camps around Chattanooga and come down here and visit the battlefield. McPherson's troops, those of you all who went a few years ago on the bus trip down to Resaca, McPherson's troops march from North Alabama and Southeast Tennessee into Chattanooga, and then march down the Lafayette Road, and they are staged in the Lee and Gordon's Mill area in the southern edge of the battlefield for several days before launching the drive down to Resaca beginning on May the 7th. And their letters and diaries are full of descriptions of being tourists on the historic site known as the Chickamauga battlefield.
Alpheus Williams in his letters talks about, he criticizes Thomas, says this is no place to fight. The point of this is that the men who fought here had some opportunity to return here and sort of pinpoint their positions without the stress of actual combat.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like a place like Gettysburg, most of those guys prior didn't go back for 20 years. You know, they had no.
Yes, I mean, John Batchelder ran around, but Lee's army abandons or departs on July 4, and the Army of Potomac follows. And how many of those soldiers get a chance to go back to the battlefield?
Right.
So I think that perhaps without that extended period of both Confederate and Union occupation, we might have a much less solid understanding of the battlefield. But it also puts more weight on the monument placements.
And all of this, you know, just what we've been doing these last X number of years, and yesterday and today, what the veterans envisioned, studying the battlefield, kind of like what John Bell Hood turned to Bushrod, what Bushrod Johnson said after having received his final order from John Bell Hood. How that order was carried out will be determined by those who investigate all the details of this battle. So moving these puzzle pieces around to fit the pictures, the created pictures.
So let's go down to Barnes.
Where's the Wilder Brigade, or the Wilders Brigade at this point?
Where is Wilder?
Yeah.
They're at the southern end of the battlefield.
Down here.
The extreme right.
So
Well off that map. Probably
it's off
another
the
2
map.
maps.
Oh yeah, a long ways.
South, yeah.
And this is all 14th Corps right here?
They're looking
No.
off the top of the tower.
Because of the importance of fighting this fight once it began, Rosecrans has been sending Thomas troops from other commands, and so Richard Johnson's division from McCook's 20th Corps was sent up to Thomas on the 19th. And then John Palmer's division of the 21st Corps was sent to Thomas. So Thomas has more than half the army under his command by the morning of the 20th, and it's a mix of his own, McCook's, and Crittenden's troops.
As of noon on September 20, it's kind of interesting to count the number of divisions. Thomas has command of the 1st Division of the 14th Corps, his own. He has command of Negley's 2nd Division of the 14th Corps. He has command of Brannan, 3rd Division of the 14th Corps. He has command of Reynolds, 4th Division of the 14th Corps. So he's got all 4 of his divisions. He has command of Palmer, 2nd Division, 21st Corps. He has command of Johnson, 2nd Division of 20th Corps. That's 7 divisions. Phil Sheridan, 3rd Division of 20 Corps, has orders to proceed to join Thomas. That's 8 divisions. And you can interpret Thomas Wood, his order to close up and support Reynolds, 4th Division of the 14th Corps, as a move to join Thomas. So that's 9 divisions. We have really only the 1st Division of the 20th Corps, the very small 1st Division of the 20th Corps, who by September 20th number roughly 1,200 men in 2 brigades. That's the only command. Oh, and I forgot Van Cleve, who's
2/3 of which has been sent
Yeah.
to George Thomas.
and Van Cleve's. You know, Crittenden says, since I don't have any command, can I go at least join Van Cleve and go into battle with him? So you see how much of the army is being pulled in this direction.
Well,
And-
I got a question on that map. When Stovall and Adams get to where they're going, how aware were like Scribner, Starkweather, Barry? How aware were
Utterly aware.
Completely.
Completely aware.
they? Okay.
They all reversed their support line, their second line of
Okay.
troops, to face into the field. Not all of them could fire because of the direction,
Friendly troops in front of them.
but
Okay.
they were all prepared to deal with that effort.
And what all that really shows is that in the Council of War, where George Thomas had said, I would strengthen the left, and where by one account Rosecrans is said to have said, I'll protect the left with the entire army if necessary. This idea that the left end of the Union line is critical for the Union Army has filtered down from Rosecrans to Thomas, McCook, and Crittenden, to division commanders, Absalom Baird, Richard Johnson, John Palmer, Joseph Reynolds, to brigade commanders, to regimental commanders, and no one told Goodspeed to turn Battery A, 1st Ohio Light Artillery, up here and point it at and fire at Stovall and Adams. All of a sudden, Confederate shots are coming south into Kelly Field, and Goodspeed looks north and sees Confederates coming this way, and he turned that battery in that direction. Henry Cushing of Battery H, 4th U.S., did the exact same thing. I mentioned Major Beatty of the 2nd Ohio and Scribner's Brigade. Nobody told him to turn around and fire. He saw enemy to his left rear, and he turned around and fired.
I mean,
So,
you know, that's a bad deal.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But then again, Stovall and Adams, and then later Govan never had no chance of really turning the.
That's
yeah,
true.
They're not enough of them,
No.
and too many Federals know how critical the left end of this line is. You don't need Rosecrans or Thomas or Baird or Johnson or Palmer or Reynolds to tell anybody to do something to protect the left. Their people know what to do if there's a threat.
Which is why I tried to pose the supposition: what if we had Wood and Polk
Up here.
up here